The next step we want to go over is the two important views that you'll be working with, and they are the technician view and the workflow view. And to get to these two different views, what you're going to do is click on the three black bars. It's the hamburger menu, and we're going to move over to live shop and actually switch over and also load up a technician view. So initially, when you first go to the today's vehicle page, you're going to end up on a step that's called the workflow view. And when it's on the workflow view, you'll know because at the top of each one of the headings here, you're going to see things like today's appointments, appointments expected in, waiting for drop off, waiting for inspect, creating estimate, waiting for approval, waiting for work finished, and waiting for pickup. These are all the normal steps that you go through on a repair order in most shops. We also want to make sure that you know that this view is where the service writer can actually maintain things in the order they need to get them done. So in this example, the Mini Cooper is our number one priority to get done today. So I'm going to hover over the two dotted lines on the top of it, hold down the left mouse button, and drag it up to the top, and then release. So on this particular page, this doesn't have any effect on the technician's working order. This is for the service writer to maintain the order they need to get things done to take care of the customer. So you could imagine if you had 8 or 10 repair orders in the creating estimate column, and one of them needs to be estimated right now so that we can get it approved and parts ordered, we can drag that up to the top. To switch to the next view, what we want to do is move over to the three black bars, hold down click on our left mouse button. And when the menu opens, we want to go down to where it says Technician View and left click again. You're going to see it's going to open a new tab in the browser at the top. And in this view, what you're going to see is you're going to see the No Tech column and then one column for each one of the technicians in your shop that are actually authorized to do work. I'd also like to point out on this view that hovering over any of these numbers or icons here is going to give you some feedback and let you know what they mean. And again, it's the service writer's job on this view to arrange things from top down. The number one priority goes to the top, and then they'll work their way down. The next thing we want to do is cover some of the things that we can actually identify on the screen with a great visual. And to do that, what we're going to do is actually start going through this. So you can see by the screenshot that we have here that we're definitely on the technician view of the two views. And we can see that because it says no tech on it, and it could also have a technician's name at the top of the column. I'd like to draw your attention to the bottom of the screen because on the bottom of the tile in technician view, it's going to have the workflow step that the vehicle is in. So in this case, it says waiting for inspect, but if it says creating estimate or waiting for approval, that's a great visual for the service writer to know they can add something to the repair order without it going to the technician approved and have the technician prematurely start working on something. The next thing we want to talk about is this tile on the top left with the wrench on it. We call that the wrench icon. And I'm going to switch you over to a live shop and show you some of the information that's available by clicking on this icon. So I'm going to move over to this Ford Explorer. I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to hover over the wrench till it appears a hand, and I'm going to left click. And it's going to open a work order pop-up screen. The good thing about this is you can see all the labor lines from the management system have been pushed over. You can see the parts associated with it, and you can see the time, the approved time that was negotiated between the service writer and the customer. Also in this area, I'm going to click on the Service History and OEM Recommendations tab. And here you can see the whole history for all the times the vehicle has been in the shop. And in this area, if you clicked on Inter-Shop Communication, it would show you all the chat history between the service writer and the technician associated with this one repair order. Over on the right-hand side where it says CRM Now, this is information from prior service visits that's been pushed forward and repurposed. And this is a great place for this because on the left-hand side of the screen, the service writer can see prior history, and they can make adjustments here on this side. If something's been done in the past, it's not due again, simply check the mark and remove it. Also in this area, the service writer is going to have access to OEM recommendations. I'm going to left click on there. If this vehicle had indicator-based mileage or service intervals where they come up on the dashboard, they would be listed here. This vehicle's too old, so we're going to go by the odometer based, and we're going to click show recommendations, and it's going to show you any service recommendations based on this particular mileage. And then the service writer can actually click on it and actually make sure they match the inspection results that come back from the technician. It's going to show this in its own area on the inspection results at the bottom. Bear in mind, the technician also has the ability to do this on their tablet, and they would probably be in a better position to do so. I'm going to skip over inspection results or reports because we'll be covering that in depth later. I'm going to go to TSBs and recalls. This is a great way where the service advisor can actually click on and show a customer open recalls for their particular vehicle. And again, the technician has the same ability to choose open recalls or TSBs for this vehicle that pertain to this service visit on their tablet. But again, this is going to put this in its own separate area on the bottom of the inspection results for the customer. And again, we can't do recalls in our shop, but it's just a value-added tool that we use to educate the customer. We're the experts. We want to make sure they have all the information. We're going to move over to CRM next. This is where a service writer can prepare for the next visit. This is part of our retention training that we do on Fridays. And again, we'll cover this just a little bit on the end. I'm going to close this. Next up on our list of information that we need to understand is going to be the promise time. And on the promise time, this is the time that's either when the repair order was created, or depending on your management system, it may be the promise time that was negotiated between the customer and service writer and actually entered in the management system. Let's switch over to Live Shop and look at this function. So in this case, you can see the promise time on this Ford Explorer was Tuesday 7/3, and the promise time is here. And what's going to happen is when that promise time gets close or exceeded, you're going to see that nice yellow triangle show up in this box. If the customer needs to be recalled, you can adjust this promise time by clicking on this link, adjusting the time, and then clicking apply, and it will reset. It's the service writer's job at all times to make sure the monitor, and when these yellow triangles show up, be proactive rather than reactive, and make sure you meet the customer's expectations. Next up on the tile is going to be the amount of billed and or completed hours. This upper number is going to be the amount of hours that have been negotiated between the service writer and the customer. And this lower number is going to be the amount of hours that have been marked either partially complete or complete by the technician on their tablet. So a great example of using this to work together as a team is when this upper number, if this example showed 10 hours, and this lower number shows 9.5, that service writer should be having the next repair order ready, staged, parts available, and so on, so that technician can just move on to the next repair order. On the top right-hand corner of the screen where this green car icon is, it may be red and flashing at sometimes. And if it's red and flashing, that means that we weren't able to identify specifically by the VIN number all the attributes of the vehicle. For example, we couldn't identify whether it's an all-wheel drive or had navigation and things like that. The service writer has the ability to go ahead and click this and make the choices. This function also exists on the technician's tablet. There'll be a red banner on the left-hand side of the tile that says select vehicle information. And when the technician sees that, if they would click on it and make that adjustment, they're probably in a lot better place to make that decision than the service advisor because they're already looking at the vehicle. On the left-hand side in this black circle with the number count in it, this is going to be the number of jobs that are open on the entire repair order. So in this day and time where we dispatch repair orders to multiple different technicians based on their specialty area, this is important that we know that this is for that purpose. The red circle on the other side is going to be the amount of jobs open for this particular technician on this repair order. So again, when that tile gets grayed out and dimmed and you get that big green check mark, always look over to the right hand side where that black circle is in this case and make sure there's a green check mark there also, so we don't prematurely call the customer and let them know their vehicle is ready and have to call them back or apologize when we find out we were wrong. And hopefully it's not when they're standing at the counter waiting at that point. The special and ultimate markers are on these lower 3 tiles, and these are used to visually identify things that may occur over multiple workflow steps. We want to give a really quick visual. I'm going to switch over to Live Shop and just quickly go through here, and we're going to set some for this particular vehicle. So I'm going to go over to any of these 3 areas. I'm going to click one of them, and I'm going to click on top here at first and click here, and then you can see that this message has been set up to do not roll down the left front window because the customer doesn't want to pay to fix it. We've also added this black check mark here because we want this to persist across multiple visits because we've had to put this back on the track for the customer more than one time. I'm going to move down. I'm going to select another marker. And in this case, what we're going to do is say parts are expected at. We're going to click the link to configure it. The parts are going to be expected at about 1 o'clock today. We're going to move down here. We're going to choose another marker, and we're going to say pick up by. We're going to click on the link to configure it, and we're going to say the customer needs this vehicle by 4 o'clock. After they're all set, we click apply. And we'll be providing a link later that will take you into more about how to set up and use these important markers. To the left of the customer's name, you're going to see sometimes an eyeball and sometimes what looks like a text message. That is letting you know the type of inspection that's been last sent to the customer. When that nice green check mark appears, that means the customer has also not only been sent a message, but they've also seen it and replied to it. There is going to be cases when you open a new repair order for a customer that you've sent them a message in the past and there's not going to be a green check mark. This is a great time to have that conversation with the customer and make sure you verify their cell phone number and email address and go through and let them know to expect communications digitally as we are a digital shop. The next thing we're going to do is move over and make sure that we can dispatch. And to do that, I'm going to switch to a live shop here in just a minute. And when I get to the live shop, this is the exercise we're going to do. You're going to drag and drop blue steel from the no tech column to one of your techs. If your tablet's assigned to the technician, you should be able to hear an audible alert. So let's see if we can make that happen. Before we do that, I would like to make sure all of our iPads are all set up the same so we can have the same experience.